Hi guys, welcome back. My name's Courtney. I'm the senior herpetology keeper here at the Virginia Living Museum, and I have with me my friend Athena. This is our corn snake. So this is a normal wild type corn snake, but you might also know corn snakes from the pet trade, and they can come in all different shapes or all different colors and patterns when they're bred in captivity. But this girl is what you would see if you were to encounter a corn snake in the wild. So Athena here came to us. She was actually a surrendered pet. She's being a little shy right now. Her owners were no longer able to care for her, so she's now part of our collection, and she loves it here. She's doing really well, and we're going to give her a little bit of enrichment, which she's already getting tons of enrichment right now just by being outside on this beautiful day. We're kind of taking advantage of this sunshine. She was sniffing some of the trees and plants out here, and we're going to give her a new enrichment item on our cart over here, which is this nice holy box. So this is something that we get shipments in, sometimes produce, sometimes things like mealworms or crickets come in these nice aerated boxes, but they are actually really perfect for snake enrichment. So we're going to let her explore this, and I will tell you guys a little about snakes in the meantime. So this is the time, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in, of course. So this is the time of year that you might start seeing wild snakes out in your yard and showing up in random places and maybe a little unexpected at times. So now that we're approaching spring and it's becoming really nice outside, a lot of sunshine, very warm out, this is the time of the year that the reptiles, so all of the snakes and lizards, start moving around and coming out to enjoy that sun. So reptiles, being cold-blooded animals, need that sunshine to warm their bodies up. They've been inactive all winter long, and they are coming out to get things moving, get their metabolisms going, and start looking for food and for mates. So this guy is actually, or girl I should say, she is really enjoying the sunshine and may not want to move all that much at all. So do we have a question?
Yes, we have a question from Callie, age 5, wants to know, are they nocturnal?
They are not nocturnal. So these guys are daytime active, like most snakes are, and you would probably not really see this snake out in the wild very often unless you kind of came across it, because they have this really good camouflage pattern. So you might think, well, it's bright orange, it's not very good camouflage, but when they're down on the ground in the leaf litter and in the soil, they blend in really well. So these guys would be active during the day. Do you want to check that out? Thinking about it. Do you have any more questions for me yet?
Zach has a question. How long do corn snakes usually get?
This is adult size for a corn snake, so if I kind of stretch her out a little bit, she's a few feet in length, and she's a very healthy sized corn snake. She's pretty large. So if you were to see a corn snake in the wild, they might be this big, but more than likely a little smaller than this. And if it's a female, she would probably be about this size, because the females do get a little bit larger.
Liz asks, how old is she?
That is actually a really good question. We know she's not all that old, but we don't know her exact age and her exact birth date. But most snakes on average can live anywhere from 10 to 15 years. If they're being cared for really well by humans and they have good veterinary care and lots of good food available, sometimes they can live a little longer. She's really enjoying this sunshine. She might not be very active for us today.
All right, Luca, age 4, wants to know if they bite, and if so, when and why.
That is a great question, and I'm really glad that you asked that, because that's one of the things that we like to educate people about with snakes in general, is that most snakes are not mean animals. They kind of get a bad reputation, and a lot of people are really afraid of snakes, but they're not aggressive for the most part, unless they feel scared or threatened, and then they might bite. So with this girl, she's very used to being handled and moved around, and she has never tried to bite us, and that's pretty much true for most of the snakes that we have here at the museum. They're not going to bite unless they feel like they're in danger, because that's their way of defending themselves. They don't have arms and legs to scratch or run away very quickly, so they might turn and try to bite if they feel cornered and threatened. Or if you smell like a mouse and they are hungry, they might try to bite you thinking that you're food. Because these guys do hunt mostly by smell. So sometimes they get a little confused with that at feeding time, but for the most part, they're not going to bite. And that's true of most wild snakes as well. If you see a snake in your yard, you really should just stop, take a step back, and let that snake go on its way, because it's not going to hurt you.
We have two questions that are related. One is from Tina, how many eggs do they lay at a time? And Ivy wants to know, what do their babies look like?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know off the top of my head how many eggs this species lays, but snakes in general can vary, and it usually depends on body size. So really, really small snakes are going to lay fewer eggs, and then larger snakes are going to lay more eggs. So for example, our ball python actually laid a clutch of eggs this past fall, and I think there were about 12 eggs in there.
Where did she go?
She's
trying to find her head,
layers.
guys. Hang on. She's definitely
So
exploring.
the fun part about snakes is that they do like to squeeze into tight places. So we'll see if we can get her a little more
There you
visible
go.
for you. There you go.
All right, so a couple more questions popped up. Jude would like to know how long the corn snake's lifespan is.
So in general, snakes typically live 10 to 15 years. So like I said, sometimes if it's a smaller snake, they might not live quite as long, maybe only a few years, a smaller species that is. Sometimes larger ones can live a little longer, but on average, a snake like this would live about 15 years.
All right, Callan from a little bit earlier asked, does she shed?
She does shed. So if anybody has ever seen a snake shed in the wild, in your yard or in your shed maybe, no pun intended, they do shed their skin, typically all in one piece. So they go through a process where their whole body sort of turns a dull whitish color, including their eyes. So sometimes if you come to the museum here, you might see some of our snakes that are getting ready to shed, and they have a very white color over their eyes, and that's because they have a scale even over their eyes. They have no eyelids, and when they're ready to shed, they start at their nose and start rubbing it on some rocks or sticks, and then work their way out of that skin, and it kind of folds outward all in one piece, and they kind of peel it off like a sock. And that's what you see when you do see a snake shed in your garage or outside somewhere. Let me help you. There you go.
We have two questions about their diet. One is basically, what do they eat? And Lydia and Andrew want to know if they eat mice, and if so, do they spit the bones and fur up like owls do?
Oh, that is a really good question, guys. So snakes do primarily eat mice or rodents, although there are some snakes that eat different things. So there are certain ones that will specialize on things like fish. So water snakes and garter snakes will a lot of times eat fish or frogs in their more aquatic habitat. And then any kind of small rodent would be a good meal for something like this guy or girl. Things like rat snakes are really good climbers, so a lot of times they will even eat birds or bird eggs. And the question about whether they spit out the bones, that's really great because they actually don't. So they swallow their prey entirely whole, all in one piece, and they actually pass the whole prey item all the way through their digestive system. So when it comes out the other end, Sometimes you do see little bits of bone fragments, and a lot of times you do see fur that comes out as well.
We have a very appropriate question right now based on kind of what she's doing. Evan wants to know, how do they slither?
So snakes are very, very muscular. And if you are watching her sections of body move through that enrichment, which she's got herself really wedged in there right now, they move little sections of their body at one time, and they sort of undulate those motions to either move their whole body forward if they're just slithering all at once to get, you know, a far distance, or if they're trying to wedge themselves into places, they can kind of inch that body and inch those muscles forward to move themselves through whatever they're trying to get through. So she's really kind of wedging herself. She might need a little help getting herself through there. I'll let her figure it out. But yeah, so they use those muscles, and they can squeeze through really tight places because they really don't have very many bones. They're basically a spine and a rib cage all the way down their body. So they have bones in their head, so their skull, and then they have the spinal cord that runs down their back, and there you go, you're getting yourself through. And ribs all the way from just past her neck all the way down almost to her tail. So she does have ribs in there, but they can kind of compress and let her body squeeze through some pretty tight places.
Noah would like to know, do snakes blink?
They do not blink. And you would absolutely lose a staring contest with a snake because they don't have eyelids at all. So I mentioned earlier when I was talking about shedding that they actually have a scale, just like they have scales all over their bodies. They have a scale over their eye to help protect them, but they can't blink. So they don't have any tear ducts or anything like that. And even when they sleep, their eyes are open. So you don't really, it's hard to tell when a snake is sleeping because their eyes look just like they would normally. So to kind of test if a snake is sleeping, you kind of just have to kind of wave in front of them. And usually when you see that tongue flicking, then you know that they're awake and they're checking you out.
Callie would like to know, does it hurt snakes when they shed their skin?
Nope, so it comes off. Sometimes they do have some times when it might get a little stuck if they're having some dry skin problems, but usually it comes off very smoothly and it doesn't hurt them at all. It's just like if you've ever experienced like a sunburn and your skin peels off, the burn part hurts, but the skin peeling doesn't really hurt at all. Any other questions for us? All right, so with this girl, like I said, we are kind of letting her, if you're just joining us or if you didn't catch the beginning, we were just letting her explore around this box and check out this new enrichment item, and letting her enjoy this nice sunshiny day. It's a beautiful day here. We wish you all were here with us, but you know, we can bring our animals outside and let them kind of experience the outside and the sunshine, which is really important for snakes and other reptiles because they are cold-blooded animals. They need that sunshine to warm themselves up, and they also need the UV from the sun. The same stuff that gives us a sunburn if we're in the sun for too long is actually really good for their bodies to help them metabolize calcium and things like that. So the sunshine is actually a really good enrichment as well for her. So we do give her the heat and UV artificially in her enclosure, but getting it directly from the sun, there's nothing that really beats that. Any other questions for us before we wrap it up? All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We hope that you'll be able to come and see us again when we open back up again. If you want to join us again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m., we'll be having another live session here on Facebook. And be sure to visit us virtually with all of our natural education on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And please also consider donating to our emergency fund to help us to continue to provide great care for our animals during this shutdown. And for more information on that or any of the other closures or any information about the museum itself, visit us at thevlm.org. And thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.
All right, I saw that we have several questions here at the end. We're going to wrap up the recording, but we'll go through and answer your questions on Facebook in just a little bit. So thank you guys very much for coming, and we'll see you next time.